A calm journey along the Nile in ancient Egypt, a peaceful bedtime history story. Welcome, dear traveler. Tonight, there is nowhere you need to hurry, nothing you need to accomplish, and no mysteries that demand urgent answers. Instead, imagine that you have quietly stepped aboard a small wooden boat nearly 3,000 years ago, during one of the peaceful seasons of ancient Egypt. The river beneath you moves with patient confidence, just as it has for thousands of years before this moment, and as it will for thousands more. The Nile is calm. Its gentle current carries your boat without effort, while the first light of dawn slowly paints the eastern sky in shades of pale gold, soft lavender, and warm rose. The air is pleasantly cool. A faint breeze drifts across the water, carrying the fresh scent of wet earth mixed with papyrus reeds and flowering lotus blossoms. There is no engine. No distant traffic, no ringing phones, only the quiet splash of an oar touching the river. Birds awaken one by one along the shoreline. White egrets stand perfectly still in the shallow water, while graceful ibises search the muddy banks for breakfast. Somewhere beyond the reeds, a fisherman quietly untangles his nets without speaking. He has repeated this same morning ritual nearly every day of his life. The world feels wonderfully slow. Ancient Egypt was never simply a land of pyramids and mighty pharaohs. While those magnificent monuments continue to capture our imagination today, most people who lived here spent peaceful lives much like anyone else. They woke with the sunrise, worked beside the river, cared for their families, prepared simple meals, and watched the stars appear each evening above the desert. The Nile made every one of those ordinary days possible. Without this remarkable river, ancient Egypt could never have existed. Stretching for thousands of miles through northeastern Africa, the Nile carried fresh water across lands that were otherwise dry desert. Each year, its gentle floods spread rich black soil across the riverbanks, allowing wheat, barley, flax, vegetables, and fruit trees to flourish where endless sand surrounded them. The ancient Egyptians even had a special name for this fertile ground. They called it the Black Land. Beyond it lay the Red Land, the vast desert whose golden sands protected Egypt from many invading armies, while also reminding everyone that life depended entirely upon the river beside them. As your small boat drifts northward, you begin to understand why generations of Egyptians considered the Nile a sacred gift. Its surface reflects the growing sunlight like polished bronze. Tiny ripples sparkle across the water. The only sound is the gentle creaking of wooden planks beneath your feet. Your captain is an experienced boatman with weathered hands and kind eyes. He smiles politely but speaks very little. Silence is comfortable here. There is no need to fill every moment with conversation. Instead, both of you simply watch the river awaken. Soon the eastern horizon glows brighter. Palm trees become clearer against the morning light. Mud brick homes begin to appear along the riverbank, their flat roofs catching the first warm rays of the sun. Thin streams of smoke rise from outdoor cooking fires as families prepare bread for breakfast. The smell is comforting: freshly baked flatbread, warm grain, a hint of honey, perhaps a few ripe dates waiting in woven baskets. Children slowly emerge from their homes carrying clay jars toward the river. They laugh quietly together while filling them with fresh water before the day's work begins. Nearby, a pair of donkeys patiently waits beside sacks of grain that will soon be carried to a neighboring village. Nothing feels rushed. The rhythm of life follows the rhythm of the Nile itself. Every season has its purpose. Every sunrise brings familiar work. Every sunset offers well-earned rest. In ancient Egypt, time was measured not only by kings and dynasties, but by the dependable return of the river's annual flood. Farmers watched the changing water levels carefully, knowing that the future harvest depended upon nature's steady cycle. Patience was one of life's greatest lessons. The Nile never hurried. Neither did the people who lived beside it. As your boat continues its peaceful journey, the morning sun rises higher above the eastern desert hills, bathing the entire valley in soft golden light. The adventure has only just begun. Ahead lie quiet villages, peaceful temples, shaded gardens filled with lotus flowers, bustling yet gentle riverside markets, careful scribes writing on smooth sheets of papyrus, and countless ordinary lives woven together by the timeless flow of one extraordinary river. So settle comfortably into your place aboard this little boat. Take one slow breath. Listen once more to the quiet water beneath you, and allow the Nile to carry you gently into another peaceful chapter of history. Part 2: The River Awakens. The little wooden boat continues its quiet journey, carried more by the gentle current than by the effort of the oars. Morning has now fully arrived. The golden sun rises slowly above the eastern desert, spreading warm light across the broad surface of the Nile. The water glitters softly, almost as if thousands of tiny stars have decided to remain for a little while longer before disappearing into the bright blue sky. A cool breeze still lingers. It moves through the tall papyrus reeds that line the riverbanks, creating a gentle whisper that blends perfectly with the distant songs of birds beginning another peaceful day. There is no feeling of urgency here. Time itself seems to move at the same slow pace as the river. As your boat glides northward, more villages begin to appear along the shoreline. Each one looks slightly different, yet all share the same quiet rhythm of life. Most homes are built from sun-dried mud bricks. Their thick walls keep the interiors pleasantly cool during Egypt's long, hot afternoons. Flat roofs serve many purposes. Families often dry vegetables there, repair fishing nets, or simply enjoy the cooler evening air after sunset. From the river, the villages appear peaceful and welcoming. Palm trees sway gently above the rooftops. Date palms have provided food for countless generations. Their sweet fruit can be eaten fresh, dried for storage, or mixed into bread and simple desserts. Every part of the tree is useful. Leaves become baskets, mats, and roofing materials. Strong fibers become ropes. Even the trunks help build homes. Nothing is wasted. The people of ancient Egypt have learned to live carefully with the gifts that nature provides. Near the water's edge, several fishermen prepare their small boats. Their vessels are simple but beautifully balanced, crafted from local wood and strengthened with carefully tied ropes. Long before sunrise, many of these men had already begun their work, quietly setting woven nets into the calm water. Fishing is one of the oldest professions along the Nile. The river offers tilapia, catfish, perch, and many other species that have fed families for thousands of years. One elderly fisherman slowly pulls in his net. His movements are practiced and unhurried. He does not rush because he has performed this same task nearly every morning for decades. Experience has taught him that the river rewards patience far more often than haste. Nearby, several white birds gather hopefully, waiting for small fish that might escape from the net. The fisherman smiles. He does not chase them away. There is enough for everyone. Farther inland, farmers have already begun their work. From the boat, you can see green fields stretching across the famous Black Land. Only a short distance beyond those fertile fields, the endless desert begins. The contrast is remarkable. On one side lies rich farmland bursting with life. On the other lies golden sand, extending toward the distant horizon. Without the Nile, these green fields would disappear within months. The ancient Egyptians understood this better than anyone. They built canals, small reservoirs, and simple irrigation channels that carried river water into their crops. These systems were maintained with great care, often by entire communities working together. Growing food was never simply an individual task. It was everyone's responsibility. In one field, several oxen slowly pull a wooden plow through dark soil, while a farmer walks calmly behind them. Children help scatter seeds. Their parents smile with quiet pride. Grandparents rest beneath the shade of a sycamore tree, watching another generation continue traditions that have remained unchanged for centuries. The pace of life is wonderfully gentle. No one seems to hurry. No one appears overwhelmed. Instead, each person simply completes today's work, trusting tomorrow to arrive in its own time. The boat passes a small landing where merchants unload woven baskets filled with onions, garlic, beans, figs, and jars of fragrant honey. Trade along the Nile connects villages hundreds of miles apart. Many people rarely travel far from their homes. Instead, the river carries both goods and stories. News moves at the speed of the current. A traveler arriving from the south may bring tales of distant temples. Another may describe unusual birds seen near the marshes. Someone else may carry beautifully carved stone bowls made by skilled craftsmen many days away. The Nile is more than a river. It is Egypt's great highway. As the morning grows warmer, the smell of baking bread drifts across the water once again. Large clay ovens stand beside many homes. Women carefully place round loaves inside using long wooden paddles. Bread is the heart of nearly every meal. It is simple, nutritious, familiar. For thousands of years, its comforting aroma has greeted each new sunrise along these riverbanks. Your boatman finally speaks. Only a few quiet words. He points toward a graceful flock of sacred ibises flying low across the water. Their white feathers shine brilliantly against the deep blue sky. In ancient Egypt, these birds are admired for both their beauty and their connection to wisdom. The boat continues onward. Ahead, the river gently bends around a cluster of tall palms. Beyond them, something begins to appear in the distance. Stone columns, massive gateways, flags moving softly in the morning breeze. A great temple waits beside the river, peaceful and magnificent beneath the Egyptian sun. Soon, your calm journey will carry you toward one of the most remarkable places in the ancient world, where priests begin each day in silence. Incense rises gently into the morning air, and every carved stone tells a story thousands of years old. The Nile flows steadily onward, and so does your peaceful voyage. Part 3: The Temple by the River. The river curves gently to the east. Without haste, your small wooden boat follows the quiet bend, gliding across water so smooth that it reflects the sky like polished glass. Every stroke of the oar creates delicate circles that slowly fade into the endless current. The morning has grown warmer now. Sunlight spreads across the fertile valley, touching fields of grain, groves of date palms, and clusters of flowering lotus that drift peacefully near the riverbank. Ahead, the great temple slowly comes into view. Long before you reach it, you notice its enormous stone entrance rising above the surrounding trees. Two towering gateways stand like silent guardians, welcoming travelers who have arrived by river for generations. Yet there is nothing frightening about the place. Instead, it feels calm, timeless, almost as though the temple itself is breathing slowly with the rhythm of the Nile. Your boatman guides the vessel toward a small stone dock where several other boats are already resting. No one rushes to unload. A merchant carefully lifts baskets of fresh figs. Another carries jars of fragrant olive oil. A young apprentice steadies a bundle of papyrus scrolls tied neatly with linen cord. Everyone moves with quiet purpose. The sounds are gentle. Sandals brushing against stone. Soft greetings exchanged between neighbors. The flutter of pigeons nesting high upon the temple walls. As you step onto the smooth limestone, you notice that every surface bears the careful marks of skilled hands. Thousands of artisans spent years carving these walls. Each figure, each symbol, and each line was shaped with extraordinary patience. The ancient Egyptians believed that careful work honored both the gods and future generations. Nothing here was made to last only a season. Everything was built to endure. Massive columns rise toward the sky, their tops carved to resemble blooming papyrus and lotus flowers. Although they are carved from stone, they seem almost alive in the gentle morning light. Between the columns, cool shadows offer welcome relief from the growing warmth of the day. Inside the temple courtyard, peace settles over everything. Priests dressed in spotless white linen walk quietly across polished stone floors. Their heads are clean-shaven, a symbol of ritual cleanliness. Each movement is measured, each gesture deliberate. No one speaks loudly. The silence itself feels sacred. From somewhere deeper within the temple comes the faint scent of incense. Frankincense and myrrh drift softly through the air, carried by the breeze like invisible ribbons. The fragrance mixes with the smell of warm stone and fresh flowers that have been placed upon small offering tables. Fresh lotus blossoms float gently in shallow pools. Their pale blue petals slowly open beneath the morning sun. Nearby, a young temple servant carefully sweeps the courtyard with a bundle of palm fibers. He works slowly. There is no supervisor urging him to move faster. His task is important because even simple work deserves careful attention. That belief shapes much of daily life in ancient Egypt. Visitors arrive throughout the morning. Some bring baskets of bread. Others carry fruit, vegetables, flowers, or small jars filled with honey. These are not extravagant gifts. They are expressions of gratitude. People hope for healthy children, successful harvests, safe journeys, or simply another peaceful year beside the river. The temple is not only a place of worship, it is also a center of learning. Within quiet rooms lined with wooden shelves, scribes carefully copy important texts onto fresh sheets of papyrus. Each character is written with remarkable precision. A single mistake may require beginning the page again. So the scribes breathe slowly. Their hands remain steady. Their minds remain patient. One experienced scribe pauses for a moment and gently grinds black pigment upon a smooth stone palette. Beside it rests another color, deep red. Black ink records ordinary words. Red ink highlights important names, beginnings, and sacred passages. The brushes are surprisingly simple. Tiny reeds cut and softened at one end create delicate tips capable of producing elegant lines. The writing seems almost effortless. Outside, the sound of birds fills the air once more. A pair of swallows dart between the towering columns, chasing tiny insects dancing in shafts of sunlight. Somewhere beyond the temple walls, donkeys quietly carry sacks of grain toward nearby storehouses. Life continues. The temple exists alongside ordinary daily routines, rather than apart from them. Children laugh softly near the river. Farmers tend their fields. Fishermen cast their nets. Merchants arrange pottery upon woven mats. Everything belongs to the same peaceful rhythm. As the sun climbs higher, the stone beneath your feet begins to grow warm. Yet inside the great halls, the air remains pleasantly cool. Ancient architects understood how to use thick walls, shaded courtyards, and carefully placed doorways to create natural comfort long before modern technology existed. The building seems perfectly suited to its environment. Nothing feels unnecessary. Nothing feels excessive. Even after thousands of years, these ancient designs continue to inspire admiration. You find a quiet place beneath one of the towering columns and simply watch. A pigeon lands nearby. Dust floats lazily through beams of golden light. Far away, you hear the gentle splash of water as another boat arrives at the dock. The Nile never stops flowing. Travelers never stop arriving. Generations come and go. Yet the river remains constant. Its patient waters continue to connect every village, every temple, and every family living along its fertile banks. Soon, your own journey will continue once again. The boat waits quietly at the shore, rocking almost imperceptibly against the dock. Beyond the next bend of the Nile lies another peaceful chapter, where the quiet work of ancient scribes preserves knowledge that will survive for thousands of years, allowing distant generations to glimpse the remarkable world you are slowly exploring. The river is ready, and so are you. Part 4: The House of the Scribes. The boat slips quietly away from the temple dock. For a few moments, no one speaks. The only sound is the gentle splash of the oar dipping into the Nile, followed by the soft dripping of water back into the river. Behind you, the great temple slowly becomes smaller, its towering stone walls fading into the warm morning light until they blend with the distant palms. Ahead, the river stretches peacefully toward the horizon. The Nile has always been more than a river. It is a road without dust, a pathway without stones. For thousands of years, boats have carried people, food, building materials, letters, and ideas along these calm waters. Long before paved roads connected distant cities, the Nile quietly united an entire civilization. Your boat follows the current past green riverbanks, where children wave cheerfully to passing travelers. A small herd of goats drinks at the water's edge. Nearby, an elderly woman kneels beside the river, washing linen garments with patient hands. She hums a simple melody that drifts softly across the water before disappearing into the gentle breeze. The world feels wonderfully unhurried. After some time, another settlement comes into view. Unlike the farming villages you have already passed, this place has an atmosphere of quiet study. The buildings are larger, carefully arranged around shaded courtyards. Young trees provide welcome shelter from the midday sun, and narrow paths connect one building to another. This is where many of Egypt's scribes are trained. In ancient Egypt, the ability to read and write was rare. Most people lived honest and meaningful lives without ever learning the hundreds of beautiful symbols known today as hieroglyphs. Farmers, fishermen, craftsmen, builders, and merchants all possessed valuable skills, but writing belonged to a smaller group whose work helped preserve the memory of an entire civilization. A scribe was more than someone who copied words. He recorded harvests, measured grain, kept tax records, copied sacred texts, documented royal decrees, wrote personal letters, recorded history. Without these careful writers, much of what we know about ancient Egypt would have quietly disappeared with time. You step ashore beneath the shade of several large sycamore fig trees. Their broad branches create islands of coolness, where students sit upon woven reed mats. Some are only children. Others are nearly grown. Each holds a smooth wooden writing board coated with a thin layer of white plaster that can be used again and again for practice. Their teacher walks slowly between them. His voice is calm. He never shouts. Instead, he patiently demonstrates each symbol with careful movements of his reed brush. One by one, the students copy his work. Some lines are straight. Others curve gracefully. Mistakes happen. The teacher simply smiles and encourages another attempt. Learning to write is not a race. It is an art built through patience. Inside one quiet room, shelves contain dozens of neatly rolled papyrus scrolls. Some preserve medical knowledge. Others describe mathematics, farming techniques, religious ceremonies, poetry, or stories passed down through generations. Each scroll represents countless hours of careful work. Making papyrus itself requires remarkable skill. Workers cut tall papyrus reeds growing beside the Nile into long, thin strips. The strips are carefully layered, one row placed horizontally, another vertically. Pressed together and dried under weight, the natural sap binds them into smooth sheets. After polishing the surface with stone, The result becomes one of the world's earliest writing materials. Light, flexible, remarkably durable. Many of these scrolls will survive for thousands of years in Egypt's dry climate. A young apprentice carefully prepares fresh ink. He mixes finely ground soot with water and natural gum to create rich black pigment. For important headings and sacred names, he prepares bright red ink from crushed minerals. His hands move with quiet confidence despite his youth. He has practiced these motions many times before. Nearby, an experienced master scribe copies an older manuscript whose edges have begun to wear with age. He leans forward slightly. Every stroke of his brush is slow, deliberate, respectful. He is not simply writing words. He is preserving knowledge for people he will never meet. Perhaps without realizing it, he is writing for us. Outside, the breeze gently stirs the leaves overhead. A dove lands upon a low stone wall before taking flight once again. From somewhere nearby comes the comforting aroma of freshly baked bread. The students pause briefly for a simple midday meal. Bread, figs, dates, a few onions, perhaps some cheese. Cool water drawn from clay jars that keep it naturally fresh. The meal is modest, yet it is shared with gratitude. As the afternoon continues, the warm sunlight filters softly through the trees. The classroom grows even quieter. Only the faint scratching of reed brushes upon writing boards fills the air. It is a peaceful sound, a sound of learning, a sound of memory being carefully preserved. Your boatman waits patiently beneath the shade, speaking with a local craftsman who repairs wooden oars. Neither man appears in any hurry. The Nile teaches its own lesson. Everything has its season. Everything has its proper pace. Eventually, the lesson ends. The students carefully gather their writing boards. Each bows respectfully to the teacher before returning home through shaded pathways lined with flowering shrubs. The courtyard slowly empties. Silence returns once more. You take one last look at the quiet school. It is easy to imagine that, somewhere within these peaceful rooms, a young apprentice is copying words that will one day survive thousands of years, allowing distant generations to understand a civilization carried gently by the timeless waters of the Nile. As the afternoon light begins to soften, you step back aboard the little wooden boat. The ropes are untied. The current catches the hull. Without effort, the Nile carries you onward once again. Far ahead, fields of golden grain shimmer beneath the sun, where farmers are preparing for the evening harvest, and another quiet chapter of your journey is waiting just beyond the next gentle bend of the river. Part 5: Fields of the Black Land. The Nile carries your little boat onward with its familiar, unhurried grace. By now, the morning has gently slipped into the warm hours of the afternoon. The sunlight no longer glows with the soft colors of dawn. Instead, it rests like liquid gold across the broad river, where every small ripple catches the light before quietly disappearing again. The breeze has become lighter. Even so, the air remains pleasant beside the water. Along the western bank, endless fields unfold before your eyes. This is the famous Black Land, the fertile soil that ancient Egyptians called Kemet. Its rich, dark earth was unlike anything found in the surrounding desert. Year after year, the Nile overflowed its banks during the flood season, leaving behind a fresh layer of fine silt carried from lands far to the south. To the people of ancient Egypt, this was not merely mud. It was life itself. Without it, there would have been no villages, no temples, no bustling markets, and no flourishing civilization. Your boat drifts close enough to hear the quiet sounds of the countryside. A wooden water wheel creaks gently. Oxen move at an easy pace. Birds call from nearby reeds. Somewhere beyond the fields, a shepherd whistles softly to his flock. Every sound belongs naturally to the landscape. Nothing interrupts the calm rhythm of the valley. A narrow footpath follows the riverbank. Upon it walks a farmer carrying a simple wooden hoe across his shoulder. His linen clothing is light enough to remain comfortable beneath the Egyptian sun, and a woven basket hangs from one arm, filled with fresh vegetables gathered only moments ago. He pauses beside the river. Scooping cool water into his hands, he washes away the dust before continuing toward home. Nearby, several children laugh quietly as they help gather bundles of flax. Flax is one of Egypt's most valuable crops. Its fibers are carefully spun into linen, the cloth that almost everyone in ancient Egypt wears. From ordinary workers to wealthy officials, linen is the fabric of daily life. The finest linen is so smooth and finely woven that, when held against the sunlight, it appears almost transparent. Yet creating such beautiful cloth requires remarkable patience. First, the flax must be harvested, then dried, then beaten to separate the fibers. After that comes spinning, weaving, washing, and finishing. Each step depends upon skilled hands. As your boat continues downstream, you notice neat rows of wheat gently swaying in the afternoon breeze. Golden heads of grain bend softly together, creating waves that seem to echo the movement of the river itself. Harvest season is one of the busiest times of the year. Men and women work side by side, using curved sickles fitted with sharp flint blades. Rather than rushing, they move steadily through the fields. Each bundle is tied carefully. Each stalk has value. Nothing is wasted. Nearby, 2 donkeys patiently wait beside woven baskets already filled with grain. They stand quietly beneath the shade of an acacia tree, flicking their ears now and then as small birds hop around their feet searching for scattered seeds. Ancient Egypt depended not only upon hard work, but also upon cooperation. Families helped one another. Neighbors shared tools. Entire villages joined together during planting and harvest. The success of one household often depended upon the kindness of another. As the afternoon grows warmer, many workers pause beneath trees for a short rest. Lunch is simple but satisfying. Fresh bread, sweet dates, figs, onions, perhaps a handful of nuts. Cool water stored inside porous clay jars, naturally chilled as moisture slowly evaporates from their outer surface. The conversation is quiet. There is no need for loud voices. Everyone knows tomorrow will bring another day of honest work beside the river. A gentle wind stirs the leaves overhead. The shade feels wonderfully cool. In the distance, several white cattle graze peacefully near an irrigation canal. Water flows slowly through carefully dug channels that branch away from the Nile like delicate veins. These canals are maintained throughout the year. Without them, fields farther from the river would quickly dry beneath the powerful Egyptian sun. Ancient engineers understood water with remarkable skill. They observed its movement, respected its rhythms, guided it carefully instead of fighting against it. Your boatman smiles as he points toward a long wooden pole standing beside one of the canals. A farmer operates a simple device known today as a shaduf. With a counterweight on one end and a bucket on the other, he lifts water effortlessly from the canal into a higher channel feeding nearby crops. The movement is slow, graceful, almost hypnotic. Lift, pour, lower, repeat, again and again. Generation after generation, this simple invention helps feed an entire civilization. As the afternoon slowly begins its journey toward evening, shadows grow longer across the fields. The light becomes softer, warmer, more peaceful. Egrets return to the marshes. Dragonflies skim low across the water. The scent of damp earth rises gently from the freshly watered fields. Your little boat continues onward without interruption. The Nile seems almost alive beneath its wooden hull, carrying you through a landscape where every season, every harvest, and every quiet afternoon has followed the same timeless rhythm for thousands of years. Ahead, the river widens once more. In the fatting golden light, dozens of graceful sailboats drift toward a lively riverside town, where merchants prepare for the evening market, and the gentle sounds of daily life continue beneath the endless Egyptian sky. Your peaceful journey is far from over. The Nile still has many stories to share. Part 6: The Evening Market by the River. The afternoon slowly begins to soften. The bright Egyptian sun, so brilliant only a short while ago, now hangs a little lower in the western sky. Its golden light becomes warmer, bathing the river in gentle shades of amber and honey. Your small boat continues drifting northward. The current does most of the work now. The sail catches a light breeze, swelling quietly above your head like a great white bird gliding across the sky. The boat barely seems to disturb the water. Tiny ripples spread outward before disappearing once again into the calm surface of the Nile. In the distance, a town begins to emerge. Unlike the peaceful farming villages you have passed throughout the day, this settlement is larger. Wooden docks stretch into the river, welcoming travelers from both the north and the south. Yet even here, life feels calm. There are no shouting crowds, no frantic movement, only the steady rhythm of people ending another ordinary day. As your boat approaches the harbor, the scent of fresh bread reaches you first. Large clay ovens have been burning since before sunrise. Now their final loaves are cooling upon woven baskets lined with linen cloth. Nearby, another baker carefully brushes flour from his hands before greeting a familiar customer with a warm smile. Bread is more than food. It is comfort. It is tradition. It is something every household shares. The dock itself is alive with quiet activity. Sailors secure ropes around smooth wooden posts. A merchant gently lowers baskets filled with ripe figs onto the stone pier. Another carefully rolls large jars of olive oil toward a nearby storage house. Nothing feels hurried. Each person moves with the confidence that comes from repeating the same tasks for many years. The market stretches beneath rows of woven reed shelters that provide welcome shade from the afternoon sun. As you wander among the stalls, every corner reveals something beautiful. One table displays polished alabaster bowls that glow softly in the sunlight. Another offers finely woven linen, so delicate it almost floats when lifted by the breeze. Nearby, a potter arranges smooth clay jars of every size, each one shaped by steady hands and baked in simple kilns just outside the town. Some vessels will carry water. Others will store grain. Still others will preserve honey or fragrant oils for months at a time. Nothing is made carelessly. Every object has a purpose. The smell of herbs drifts gently through the air. Bundles of fresh mint hang beside dried coriander. Garlic, onions, cumin, and dill rest in woven baskets. A woman carefully measures spices into a small linen pouch, while explaining their uses to a young apprentice who listens with great attention. Not far away, a carpenter smooths the edge of a cedar chest using nothing more than a sharp bronze blade and remarkable patience. The scent of fresh wood mixes pleasantly with the fragrance of herbs and warm bread. Children move quietly through the marketplace, carrying small baskets. Some help their parents. Others deliver messages between shops. A few pause beside a storyteller, seated beneath a sycamore tree. His audience is small. His voice is gentle. Rather than telling tales of fierce battles, he speaks of clever animals, wise travelers, and the lessons hidden within ordinary moments. People smile. Some laugh softly. Others simply listen. Stories have always been one of humanity's oldest treasures. As the afternoon continues, musicians arrive carrying simple instruments. A harp made from polished wood. A slender flute carved from reed. Small hand drums covered with stretched animal hide. Their melodies are slow and soothing. The music drifts through the marketplace like another gentle breeze, never overwhelming the quiet conversations that continue around them. Your boatman pauses beside an elderly merchant selling maps, drawn upon carefully prepared papyrus. Although these are not maps in the modern sense, they show important temples, villages, and river routes known to experienced travelers. The merchant explains that every bend of the Nile has its own character. Some stretches are broad and peaceful. Others are narrow and swift. Every captain learns to read the river just as a scribe learns to read a scroll. Beyond the market, you notice a small public well where several women fill elegant clay jars. They speak quietly while waiting their turn. Nearby, two elderly men sit beneath the shade of a palm tree playing a simple board game. There is no sign of competition or argument. Only the quiet enjoyment of an afternoon shared between lifelong friends. The shadows grow longer. The sunlight becomes softer still. Birds begin returning to their nests among the palms. The heat of the day slowly releases its hold upon the valley. Merchants begin packing away their goods. Linen cloth is folded neatly. Pottery is stacked with care. Baskets are covered to protect tomorrow's bread. No one rushes to finish before darkness. The evening always arrives at its own gentle pace. Your boat waits patiently beside the dock. Its wooden hull rocks almost imperceptibly with the movement of the river. As you step aboard once more, the first hints of sunset begin painting the western horizon in shades of gold, rose, and deep orange. The market gradually grows quieter. Voices become fewer. Footsteps slow. One by one, lamps are lit beside homes overlooking the Nile. Their small flames flicker softly, reflected in the calm water below like tiny stars that have arrived before nightfall. The boat pushes gently away from the shore. Without effort, the current welcomes you once again. Ahead lies one of the most peaceful moments of the entire journey, the Egyptian sunset, when the river glows beneath the fading light. Birds fall silent, and the first stars begin to appear above one of the oldest civilizations the world has ever known. The Nile flows onward, and so does your quiet voyage. Part 7, Sunset on the Timeless River. The market slowly disappears behind you. Its quiet voices fade into the distance until they become little more than a memory carried gently by the evening breeze. Before long, the only sounds that remain are the soft splash of the oar, the quiet rustle of papyrus reeds, and the steady breathing of the Nile itself. The river seems different now, not because it has changed, but because the light has. The sun has begun its slow descent toward the western horizon, and its golden rays stretch across the water in long ribbons of shimmering light. Every ripple catches the glow for a brief moment before letting it slip away. Your boat drifts without hurry. There is no destination that must be reached before nightfall. Along the western bank, farmers are finishing the last tasks of the day. One family gathers bundles of wheat onto a simple wooden cart pulled by two patient oxen. Another carefully closes the gate to a small garden where onions, beans, lettuce, and herbs have been growing in the rich soil. Children carry empty baskets home, laughing quietly among themselves. The day's work is complete. Tomorrow will come soon enough. The evening belongs to rest. A flock of white egrets rises gracefully from the marshes. Their wings move slowly through the warm air, glowing almost silver against the deepening orange sky. Farther overhead, swallows dart effortlessly across the river, catching the last insects of the day before returning to their nests beneath the roofs of mud-brick homes. Even the birds seem to know that evening is a time for calm. Your boatman lowers the sail. The breeze has grown softer now, and the current alone is enough to carry the boat downstream. He ties the rope with practiced hands before sitting quietly near the stern. For several minutes, neither of you speaks. There is nothing that needs to be said. Silence feels natural here. As the sunlight softens, the distant desert begins to change color. The endless sand, so bright beneath the midday sun, now glows with warm shades of amber, copper, and rose. The cliffs beyond the river cast long shadows across the valley, giving the landscape a peaceful stillness. Thousands of years ago, the people of ancient Egypt watched this same sunset. They ended their work just as you have seen. They gathered with family, shared simple meals, listened to stories, watched the stars appear one by one. The evening was not merely the end of the day. It was a gentle reminder that every day followed a reliable rhythm. Sunrise, work, rest, sunset, night, then another dawn. The Nile taught patience because the river itself never hurried. Your boat passes a small island covered with papyrus and flowering lotus. The blossoms are beginning to close for the night. Only a few remain open, their delicate petals reflecting the fading light. Dragonflies skim low across the water. A turtle slips quietly beneath the surface, without leaving more than a tiny circle behind. Everything moves with quiet purpose. Soon the first evening lamps begin to appear. Small clay oil lamps glow warmly inside riverside homes. Their gentle light shines through open doorways and narrow windows, reflecting softly upon the calm water. From one home comes the comforting smell of fresh bread. From another, the faint sound of a mother singing a lullaby to her child. Somewhere nearby, a shepherd counts his sheep before leading them safely into a simple enclosure for the night. No loud voices, no confusion, only ordinary life, unfolding exactly as it has for countless generations. The sky above continues its slow transformation. Orange becomes crimson. Crimson fades into violet. Then a deep blue begins to spread from the east, where the first evening star quietly appears. Long before telescopes or electric lights, the people of Egypt looked upward each night with wonder. The stars helped them measure the seasons. They guided travelers. They inspired stories that passed from one generation to the next. Many believed that the heavens reflected a divine order, a peaceful rhythm that echoed the steady flow of the Nile below. Your boat glides through the growing twilight. The river is almost mirror-like now. The reflection of the sky is so clear that it becomes difficult to tell where the water ends and the heavens begin. For a brief moment, it feels as though your little boat is floating between two worlds, one above and one below. The air has cooled pleasantly. The scent of damp earth drifts from the riverbanks. Palm leaves rustle softly overhead. Somewhere in the reeds, frogs begin their quiet evening chorus. Their gentle calls blend perfectly with the slow movement of the current. Ahead, your boatman points toward a small riverside campsite. A simple fire has already been prepared. Tonight, you will leave the boat for a little while and spend the evening beneath the vast Egyptian sky, where travelers have rested for thousands of years, listening to the timeless voice of the Nile before sleep gently arrives. The river continues to flow, unhurried, unchanging, as it always has, and as, in many ways, it still does today. Part 8, A Night Beneath the Egyptian Stars. The little boat drifts gently toward the shore. There is no harbor here, no busy town, no towering temple, only a quiet stretch of riverbank where soft sand meets the water, shaded by a small grove of date palms that have stood here through countless seasons. Your boatman guides the vessel onto the gentle shore. The wooden hull touches the sand with barely a sound. For a moment, neither of you moves. The evening is simply too peaceful to disturb. The last glow of sunset slowly fades beyond the western desert. Its warm colors linger along the horizon before giving way to a sky of deep blue velvet. One by one, the first stars begin to appear. The Nile reflects each of them like tiny silver lanterns scattered across the water. A small camp has already been prepared. Nothing elaborate. A woven reed mat rests beneath a palm tree. Nearby, a clay water jar stands half buried in cool sand. A simple basket contains fresh bread, dates, dried figs, and a small piece of soft white cheese. The evening meal is humble, yet it feels complete. You sit upon the mat, while your boatman quietly lights a small oil lamp. Its flame is no larger than the tip of your thumb, but it casts a warm circle of light across the sand. There is no need for anything brighter. The moon has begun its slow rise above the eastern horizon. Its pale light washes gently over the river, turning the Nile into a ribbon of silver stretching endlessly through the darkness. Somewhere nearby, a night bird calls softly. Farther away, frogs continue their quiet chorus among the reeds. The sounds never compete with one another. Instead, they seem to belong to a single peaceful melody that has played beside this river for thousands of years. Your boatman breaks the bread carefully. He offers you half with a warm smile. The bread is still soft from the afternoon baking. The dates are sweet. The cool water from the clay jar is wonderfully refreshing after the warmth of the day. Meals like this have been shared by travelers along the Nile for countless generations. Simple food, quiet conversation, gratitude for another peaceful day. After supper, the little lamp is gently extinguished. Now only the moon and the stars remain. Without modern lights, the heavens appear astonishingly clear. Thousands upon thousands of stars fill the sky from one horizon to the other. The pale band of the Milky Way stretches overhead like a river of light, mirroring the Nile below. Ancient Egyptian astronomers knew this sky well. Night after night, they carefully observed the movements of the stars. They noticed that certain constellations appeared during particular seasons. They learned to predict the coming flood of the Nile by watching for the first appearance of the bright star Sirius before dawn. When Sirius returned to the morning sky after its annual absence, it signaled that the life-giving waters would soon arrive. This knowledge shaped farming, festivals, and daily life throughout the kingdom. The heavens and the river worked together like two great clocks, guiding the rhythm of Egypt. Lying back upon the woven mat, you simply watch the stars. There is no hurry, no destination waiting tomorrow morning. Only this quiet moment beneath one of the clearest skies on Earth. A gentle breeze moves through the palm leaves above. They rustle softly, sounding almost like distant waves upon a quiet shore. The air has become pleasantly cool. The heat of the day now feels far away. Across the river, a tiny oil lamp flickers outside a distant farmhouse. Perhaps a family is finishing their evening meal. Perhaps grandparents are telling old stories to children before bedtime. Perhaps someone is quietly repairing a fishing net for tomorrow's journey. Life continues peacefully all along the Nile. Not with great excitement, but with quiet purpose. This is the rhythm that sustained one of history's greatest civilizations. Not only the achievements of kings, not only magnificent temples, but millions of ordinary evenings like this one. Evenings filled with simple meals, gentle conversations, starlit skies, and the comforting certainty that tomorrow the Nile will still be there, flowing patiently between its fertile banks. The moon climbs a little higher. Its reflection stretches across the water until it reaches almost to your feet. The river barely moves. It seems less like flowing water now and more like polished glass. Somewhere in the darkness, a fish briefly breaks the surface. A single ripple spreads outward. Then silence returns once again. Your eyes grow heavier. The gentle sounds of the Nile become softer. The cool breeze carries the faint fragrance of lotus blossoms drifting somewhere along the shore. It is easy to understand why travelers have found peace beside this river for thousands of years. The Nile asks nothing of those who sit beside it. It simply flows, patiently, quietly, endlessly. Tomorrow, with the first light of dawn, your little boat will continue its timeless journey northward toward great cities, ancient monuments, and peaceful villages still waiting to share their stories. But tonight, there is only the river, the stars, and the quiet comfort of ancient Egypt resting beneath the endless sky. Part 9. Dawn returns to the river. The night passes quietly. The stars remain overhead for many peaceful hours, slowly turning across the heavens, while the Nile continues its endless journey toward the sea. The gentle breeze cools the riverbank, and the soft rustling of palm leaves becomes almost like a lullaby. At some point, the eastern horizon begins to change. It happens so gradually that it is almost impossible to notice. The deepest blue of the night softens into a faint shade of gray. Then comes a delicate wash of lavender. Soon afterward, pale gold begins to spread across the sky. Another day is arriving. The world awakens gently. The first bird to greet the morning is a small swallow. It darts gracefully above the river before disappearing toward the nearby reeds. Moments later, the familiar calls of ibises echo across the valley. Hidden among the papyrus, tiny frogs grow quiet as the birds begin their own morning chorus. Nature shifts with perfect harmony. Your boatman is already awake. Without making unnecessary noise, he folds the woven sleeping mat and carefully places it back inside the boat. He checks the ropes. He examines the wooden oars. Running one hand along the smooth hull, he smiles with quiet satisfaction. This little boat has carried him through many seasons. It has weathered floods, calm waters, strong winds, and gentle breezes. To him, it is more than a vessel. It is a trusted companion. Nearby, a small clay pot hangs above a modest fire. The breakfast is simple. Fresh bread baked the day before. A handful of ripe dates. A few figs. Perhaps a little honey spread across warm bread. Cool water drawn from the Nile and stored overnight in a porous clay jar. Nothing elaborate. Everything satisfying. In ancient Egypt, the first meal of the day was often uncomplicated. Food was valued not for extravagance, but for nourishment and gratitude. As the sun finally rises above the eastern hills, its first rays touch the surface of the Nile. The river glows like polished gold. Tiny ripples sparkle in every direction. It is a sight that has greeted countless generations of Egyptians. Farmers, fishermen, merchants, children, priests, scribes. Every morning, the same beautiful sunrise reminds them that life continues. The ropes are untied. With a gentle push, the boat slips once more into the calm current. The river welcomes it without resistance. The sail rises gracefully as the morning breeze begins to strengthen. Almost immediately, the boat starts moving northward. The camp soon disappears behind you. Only the footprints in the sand remain, and before long, even those will be erased by the wind. Ahead, the Nile widens. Its banks become greener than ever. Tall reeds sway gently beside flowering lotus plants. Dragonflies skim just above the surface, their transparent wings catching flashes of sunlight. Several fishermen have already begun their work. Standing quietly in narrow reed boats, they cast circular nets with practiced movements that appear almost like a graceful dance. The nets spread wide before settling softly upon the water. No sudden movements. No wasted effort. Only patience. The river rewards those who understand its rhythm. Along the eastern bank, a family tends a small orchard of sycamore fig trees. Children gather fallen fruit into woven baskets, while their parents carefully inspect each tree. Nearby, goats wander peacefully between patches of grass. A young boy gently leads them toward fresh pasture, humming a quiet tune that blends with the sounds of the morning. Farther downstream, the first trading boats begin to appear. Some carry grain harvested from villages farther south. Others transport limestone blocks destined for new construction. A few are loaded with bundles of papyrus, fragrant oils, linen cloth, or beautifully painted pottery. The Nile is alive with quiet purpose. It is a highway without wheels, a marketplace without walls, a bridge connecting hundreds of communities that depend upon its generous waters. Your boat passes another small village where smoke rises gently from breakfast fires. Women grind grain between smooth stone mills. The rhythmic sound echoes softly across the water. Nearby, a potter turns his wheel with steady hands, shaping fresh clay into elegant jars that will soon dry beneath the Egyptian sun. Nothing here feels hurried. The people understand something that is easily forgotten in later centuries. Good work takes time. Care cannot be rushed. Beauty often grows from patience. The sun climbs a little higher. Its warmth begins to spread across the valley. Yet the breeze coming from the river keeps the air pleasantly cool. The fragrance of damp earth mixes with the sweet scent of blooming lotus flowers. It is impossible not to breathe deeply. Impossible not to relax. As the morning unfolds, your boatman points toward the distant horizon. There, barely visible through the gentle morning haze, rise the outlines of enormous stone monuments. They seem almost unreal. Their shapes are simple, perfect, timeless. The pyramids, still far away, they wait silently beneath the bright Egyptian sky, just as they have waited for thousands of years. Your peaceful journey is slowly carrying you toward one of the greatest wonders of the ancient world. But there is no need to hurry. The Nile has never hurried, and neither shall you. Part 10. The quiet majesty of the pyramids. The morning breeze fills the sail once again. Your little boat moves steadily northward, leaving behind another peaceful village where the day has only just begun. The sounds of grinding grain, children laughing, and birds calling from the reeds slowly fade into the distance until they become part of the gentle memory of the river. Ahead, the horizon remains clear. For a long while, nothing seems to change. The Nile continues its calm and steady flow, winding through fields of emerald green bordered by endless stretches of golden desert. Then, almost without warning, the landscape begins to shift. At first, you notice only faint triangular shapes rising above the morning haze. They seem so distant that they could almost be mountains. But as the boat glides onward, their lines become sharper, their edges more defined. There can be no mistake. The pyramids stand before you. Even from many miles away, they possess a quiet presence unlike anything else in Egypt. They do not shout for attention. They simply exist, calm, steady, and timeless. The boatman notices your gaze and smiles. He has seen the sight countless times. Yet even for him, it never loses its quiet wonder. The pyramids were already ancient to many people who lived in later periods of Egyptian history. Generations were born, lived peaceful lives beside the Nile, and passed away while these great monuments remained exactly where they had always stood. To the people of ancient Egypt, they were not merely remarkable buildings. They were symbols of continuity, of memory, of a civilization that believed something should endure beyond a single lifetime. As the river carries you closer, the morning sunlight illuminates the pale limestone that once covered much of the pyramid's outer surfaces. Long ago, many of these stones shone brilliantly in the sun, reflecting light across the desert like enormous mirrors. Travelers approaching by boat would have seen them gleaming from many miles away. Imagine the sight: the calm blue river, the fertile green valley, and beyond it all, vast white monuments rising into the cloudless sky. It must have seemed almost dreamlike. Your boat remains upon the Nile. There is no need to climb the monuments today. This journey is not about rushing from one famous landmark to another. Instead, you simply observe them from the peaceful perspective that countless ancient travelers once enjoyed. Nearby, another boat passes quietly. Its cargo consists of woven baskets filled with vegetables, jars of oil, and bundles of fresh reeds. Life continues as it always has. Even in the shadow of history's greatest monuments, ordinary people still prepare meals, tend gardens, repair boats, and care for their families. History is often remembered through kings and monuments, but it is sustained by ordinary lives. The riverbank becomes busier as you approach larger settlements. Stone quarries lie in the distance, where skilled workers carefully shape blocks destined for temples, homes, and public buildings. The steady tapping of bronze tools carries faintly across the warm air. There is no frantic pace. Each stone is measured carefully. Each surface is smoothed patiently. The Egyptians believed that precision honored both craftsmanship and time itself. Your boatman points toward a flock of birds circling high above the valley. They ride invisible currents of warm air without flapping their wings. Watching them, it is easy to understand why the ancient Egyptians found inspiration in the natural world. The river, the birds, the stars, the changing seasons. Everything around them offered lessons in balance and harmony. As midday approaches, the light grows brighter. Palm trees cast shorter shadows upon the riverbank. The water sparkles beneath the sun like countless tiny jewels. Your little boat slips quietly between patches of flowering lotus. Their broad green leaves float peacefully upon the surface, while dragonflies dance above them in flashes of blue and emerald. Nearby, a fisherman gently lifts his net. Today's catch is modest. He smiles anyway. The Nile has always taught gratitude rather than abundance alone. Some days are generous. Others are quiet. Both deserve appreciation. The pyramids remain visible behind you now. Slowly, they begin to fade into the shimmering warmth of the afternoon. Soon they become part of the distant horizon once again, standing silently over the valley they have watched for thousands of years. Ahead, the Nile bends gently toward another peaceful chapter of your journey. The river will soon lead you into shaded groves where gardeners cultivate fragrant flowers, fruit trees, and medicinal plants, places of beauty designed not for grandeur, but for quiet reflection. The current carries you onward, without haste, without effort, just as it always has. Part 11. The Gardens of Quiet Beauty. By the time the pyramids have faded into the gentle haze behind you, the Nile has returned to its familiar silence. The great monuments remain where they have stood for centuries, but the river continues its patient journey, never lingering in one place for long. Your little boat follows its course. The current is slow. The breeze is light. The afternoon sun, though warm, is softened by the cool air rising from the water. It is a comfortable hour to travel. The riverbank begins to change once again. Instead of broad fields of grain, carefully tended gardens now stretch toward the water's edge. These are not wild places. Every tree has been planted with purpose. Every path has been swept. Every pool reflects the careful attention of the gardeners, who quietly care for them each day. As the boat glides closer, you notice rows of date palms standing tall against the brilliant blue sky. Between them grow sycamore figs, pomegranate trees, and clusters of flowering shrubs whose gentle fragrance drifts across the Nile with every passing breeze. The scent is delicate, sweet but never overwhelming. Ancient Egyptians deeply appreciated gardens. To them, a garden was more than a beautiful place. It was a symbol of order, of peace, of harmony between people and nature. Many homes, temples, and estates included gardens filled with shade trees, flowers, vegetables, and small ponds where fish swam lazily beneath floating lotus blossoms. Water channels carry fresh Nile water throughout the gardens. The channels are narrow and carefully constructed. The water moves quietly, nourishing every tree before returning gently to the soil. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is forced. Everything follows the rhythm of nature. Your boat passes a gardener kneeling beside a bed of blue lotus flowers. With patient hands, he removes a few dry leaves while leaving the healthy plants untouched. His work is slow, thoughtful. He understands that a garden cannot be hurried. Growth comes in its own time. Nearby, another gardener climbs a wooden ladder resting against a date palm. He carefully gathers ripe fruit into a woven basket hanging from his shoulder. One cluster at a time. No rushing. No wasted movement. Below him, a young apprentice arranges the freshly picked dates inside reed baskets lined with clean linen. The simple task becomes almost meditative. Across a small stone bridge, children quietly help water a patch of herbs. Mint, coriander, dill, parsley. Each plant has its purpose. Some flavor meals. Others are valued for their healing properties. Egyptian healers have spent generations learning which plants soothe pain, calm upset stomachs, or help wounds heal naturally. Their knowledge is carefully recorded by scribes upon papyrus scrolls and passed from teacher to student. The breeze carries another fragrance now. Jasmine, soft and unmistakable. Tiny white blossoms climb along a shaded wall, filling the afternoon air with their gentle perfume. Several honeybees move lazily from flower to flower. Their quiet work continues without interruption. Ancient Egyptians greatly valued honey, not only as a sweet treat, but also as medicine and an offering placed in temples. Nearby, a small pond lies perfectly still. Its surface reflects the surrounding palm trees with remarkable clarity. Bright green frogs rest upon broad lotus leaves, while colorful dragonflies hover just above the water. Occasionally, a fish rises gently to the surface before disappearing beneath the reflections once again. Everything feels balanced, peaceful, as though time itself slows within these gardens. Your boatman smiles as he points toward a shaded pavilion overlooking the river. Built from smooth limestone columns and cedar beams, it offers travelers a quiet place to rest during the hottest hours of the day. Inside, woven reed mats cover the floor. Clay jars filled with cool water stand in the corners. The walls are decorated with painted scenes of birds, flowers, and flowing water. No battles, no conflict, only the beauty of everyday life. You step ashore for a short while. The stone beneath your feet remains pleasantly cool inside the pavilion. A gentle breeze passes through the open columns, carrying with it the sound of birds singing among the trees. You close your eyes for a moment. The scent of lotus, the rustling of palm leaves, the distant splash of water against the boat. It is easy to imagine that people sought out places like this not only for comfort, but also for quiet reflection. In a world without electric lights or busy streets, nature itself offered moments of peace. As the afternoon slowly begins its journey toward evening once again, gardeners finish their work. Watering jars are returned to their places. Pruning knives are carefully cleaned. Harvest baskets are carried toward nearby homes. The gardens settle into silence. Only butterflies continue drifting from flower to flower in the golden light. Your boat waits faithfully beside the riverbank. Soon it will carry you onward once more. Ahead lies a peaceful bend in the Nile where ancient storytellers, musicians, and families gather beneath the evening sky, sharing songs and memories as the day gently comes to an end. The river flows on, calm, steady, unchanging, and your quiet journey continues with it. Part 12, Stories Beside the Evening Fire. The afternoon slowly slips away. As your little boat leaves the gardens behind, the fragrance of jasmine and lotus fades into the gentle evening air. The Nile continues its quiet journey, carrying you through another peaceful stretch of the valley. The water is almost perfectly still. Only the smallest ripples spread outward from the bow of the boat. The sun has begun its slow descent once again, painting the western sky with soft shades of gold and amber. It is that special hour when the day's work is nearly finished. Along the riverbanks, farmers gather their tools. Fishing boats return one by one. Children, who spent the afternoon helping their families, now race one another along narrow footpaths, their laughter drifting softly across the water. Nothing feels hurried. Everyone knows there is enough time to reach home before darkness falls. The boatman gently steers toward a small riverside village. It is smaller than the bustling market town you visited earlier, but it possesses a quiet charm of its own. A few dozen mud brick homes stand beneath clusters of date palms. Small vegetable gardens surround each house. Goats rest peacefully beside woven fences. Smoke rises lazily from clay ovens where the evening meal is being prepared. The comforting scent of fresh bread mixes with roasted onions, herbs, and warm grain. It is the kind of smell that immediately makes a place feel like home. As the boat reaches the shore, several villagers offer warm smiles to passing travelers. Hospitality is deeply valued in ancient Egypt. A traveler is often welcomed with cool water, a place to rest, and a simple meal if one can be shared. Such kindness strengthens communities along the river. You step ashore as the sky grows softer. Near the center of the village, beneath a magnificent sycamore fig tree, families begin gathering for the evening. Some carry woven mats. Others bring baskets of bread and fresh fruit. An elderly woman places a clay oil lamp upon a flat stone. Its tiny flame flickers gently as twilight settles across the valley. Children sit close together. Their eyes shine with quiet anticipation. They are waiting for the village storyteller. Soon, an elderly man approaches. His hair is silver. His face is lined with the gentle marks of many years spent beneath the Egyptian sun. In one hand he carries a simple wooden walking staff. In the other, a small reed flute. He settles comfortably upon a woven mat. For a few moments, he says nothing at all. Instead, he simply looks toward the Nile. The river glows beneath the fading light. Only when complete silence fills the gathering does he begin. His voice is calm, warm, never loud. He tells stories that have been shared for generations. Not tales meant to frighten. Not stories filled with endless battles. Instead, he speaks of wise farmers who learned patience from the river. Of birds that always found their way home. Of craftsmen whose careful work outlived their own lifetimes. Of travelers who discovered that the greatest treasures were not made of gold, but of friendship, kindness, and peaceful days. The children listen without interruption. Even the adults smile quietly. These stories are familiar, yet hearing them again brings comfort. Much like the Nile itself, some things become more meaningful each time they return. After the stories, a young woman lifts a small wooden harp onto her lap. Her fingers gently touch the strings. The first notes drift into the evening air like ripples spreading across still water. Soon another musician joins her with a reed flute. Its clear, gentle melody rises above the soft rhythm of a hand drum, played with remarkable restraint. No one performs to impress. The music exists simply to be shared. Several villagers begin singing together. Their voices are quiet, peaceful. The melodies rise slowly into the night, blending with the sound of the river until it becomes difficult to tell where music ends and nature begins. The moon appears above the eastern horizon. Its silver light spreads across the Nile. Children begin to grow sleepy. One by one, parents gently lift them into their arms. The smallest are already asleep, their heads resting comfortably upon familiar shoulders. Nearby, a potter quietly repairs a cracked water jar while listening to the music. A fisherman finishes mending tomorrow's net. Two elderly friends sit together without speaking, content simply to watch the river flowing beneath the moonlight. There is a quiet wisdom in this village. The people understand that not every evening must be filled with excitement. Sometimes the greatest gift is simply being together, sharing bread, listening to stories, watching the stars appear. As the gathering slowly comes to an end, the oil lamps are carefully extinguished. The musicians place their instruments inside woven cloth bags. Families return home along sandy paths, illuminated only by moonlight and countless stars. The village grows wonderfully quiet. Only the gentle murmur of the Nile remains. Your boatman unties the ropes. The little boat drifts away from the shore without a sound. Behind you, the village becomes a cluster of tiny lights fading into the distance. Ahead, the river stretches beneath the moon, leading toward another peaceful chapter of your timeless journey through ancient Egypt, where, with the coming dawn, you'll visit the craftsmen whose patient hands transformed stone, wood, and gold into works of beauty that would endure for thousands of years. The Nile continues to flow. Steady, gentle, endless, and your journey continues with it. Part 13. The Quiet Workshops of Ancient Craftsmen. Morning returns almost unnoticed. Long before the sun rises above the eastern hills, the Nile is already awake. A cool mist rests lightly upon the water, softening the outlines of the riverbanks until the palms, reeds, and distant houses seem almost like gentle paintings. Your little boat moves silently through the pale morning light. The moon still lingers low in the western sky, while the first hints of gold begin to appear beyond the desert. The world is wonderfully still. Only the quiet sound of water against the wooden hull accompanies your journey. As daylight slowly spreads across the valley, another settlement comes into view. Unlike the farming villages you have visited before, this town is known for its skilled craftsmen. There are no grand palaces here, no towering monuments. Instead, simple workshops line narrow streets shaded by date palms and sycamore trees. Each workshop belongs to families who have practiced the same craft for generations. The boat glides gently alongside a small wooden pier. Already, several artisans have begun their day's work. No loud commands fill the air. No hurried footsteps echo through the streets. Only the steady rhythm of hands creating beautiful things with patience and care. You step ashore. The first workshop belongs to a potter. His work begins with little more than clay gathered from the rich banks of the Nile. The clay is smooth and dark, carefully mixed with fine sand before being kneaded by hand. He places a small lump onto a spinning wheel. Slowly, almost magically, the clay begins to rise beneath his fingertips. A bowl appears, then a graceful jar, then a slender vase. His hands barely seem to touch the surface. Each movement is calm, confident. Years of practice have made every gesture feel effortless. Nearby, shelves hold dozens of finished vessels waiting to dry beneath the morning sun. Some will carry drinking water. Others will store grain, honey, fragrant oils, or dried herbs. Many are decorated with simple painted patterns inspired by the Nile itself: waves, lotus blossoms, birds, and reeds. Nothing is overly elaborate. Beauty comes through balance rather than excess. A little farther along the street, you hear the soft tapping of bronze tools. Here, woodworkers shape cedar, acacia, and sycamore into furniture that is both practical and elegant. An elderly craftsman carefully smooths the leg of a wooden chair using a bronze blade. Beside him, his grandson watches closely, learning not through long lectures but by quiet observation. Occasionally, the old man pauses to explain why a certain grain of wood should be followed instead of cut against. The lesson is simple. Nature already knows the strongest path. A good craftsman learns to work with it. The young apprentice nods. He understands. Nearby, another artisan inlays tiny pieces of ebony and ivory into a small wooden chest. The pieces fit together with astonishing precision. No gap is visible between them. The finished chest will likely become a treasured family possession, passed from one generation to the next. Not because it is expensive, but because it has been made with extraordinary care. The streets remain peaceful. A donkey quietly carries bundles of fresh papyrus toward another workshop. Women weave baskets from reeds gathered along the riverbanks. Their fingers move steadily, crossing each strand over another until strong, beautiful patterns emerge. The baskets will hold fruit, vegetables, grain, flowers, and household goods. Some may even accompany travelers on journeys far along the Nile. Nothing here is created for a single day. Everything is made to serve well for many years. Soon, your boatman leads you toward the goldsmith's quarter. Inside a modest workshop, sunlight enters through a small window, illuminating tiny flakes of gold resting upon a stone table. Contrary to what many people imagine, the room is surprisingly quiet. No grand furnaces roar. No frantic hammering fills the air. Instead, a master goldsmith sits patiently, using delicate tools to shape a simple pendant in the form of a lotus flower. Each tiny detail is added with remarkable precision. His breathing remains slow. His hands never tremble. He knows that rushing even one movement could ruin many days of careful work. Gold is precious, but time is even more valuable. The greatest treasure of every craftsman is patience. Outside once more, the morning grows brighter. Children carry fresh water to their parents' workshops. A baker delivers warm bread to nearby families. A friendly dog naps peacefully beneath the shade of a fig tree, completely undisturbed by the quiet activity around him. The smell of fresh wood, warm clay, and baking bread fills the air. It is the scent of honest work, the scent of a peaceful community. Your boatman smiles as he watches the craftsmen. They build quietly, he says, but their work lasts for generations. His words linger in your thoughts. The great monuments of Egypt may inspire wonder. Yet behind every temple, every boat, every painted wall, every piece of furniture, every woven basket, and every beautifully carved statue stand countless ordinary men and women whose names history has mostly forgotten. Their hands shaped the civilization. Their patience preserved it. As the sun climbs higher into the clear Egyptian sky, it is time to return once again to the waiting boat. The ropes are loosened. The sail rises gently. The Nile welcomes you back with its familiar, steady embrace. Ahead, the river bends toward wide marshlands, where thousands of birds gather among endless fields of papyrus, creating one of the most peaceful landscapes in all of ancient Egypt. The journey continues, just as the river always has, and always will. Part 14, the endless papyrus marshes. The little boat slips away from the craftsman's town as quietly as it arrived. Behind you, the gentle sounds of wooden tools, turning pottery wheels, and friendly morning greetings slowly disappear into the distance. Soon, they become only another peaceful memory carried along by the river. Ahead, the Nile begins to widen. Its familiar banks gradually soften into broad wetlands where land and water blend together so naturally that it becomes difficult to tell where one ends and the other begins. The current slows. The water grows remarkably smooth. The boat seems to glide rather than sail. Your boatman lowers the sail and reaches for a long wooden pole instead. With slow, practiced movements, he guides the boat through the shallow channels that weave gently between towering forests of papyrus. The air feels cooler here. Tiny drops of morning dew still cling to the green stems, sparkling whenever the sunlight reaches them. Each breeze sends gentle waves through the papyrus, creating a soft, rustling sound like pages turning in a well-loved book. It is a sound that has echoed through these marshes for thousands of years. The papyrus plants rise far above your head. Their tall, triangular stems sway gracefully, crowned with delicate sprays that resemble feathery green umbrellas. To the ancient Egyptians, these plants were among the Nile's greatest gifts. Papyrus was far more than a reed. It became paper before paper existed. It carried royal decrees, poetry, medical knowledge, maps, letters, and stories across generations. Without these humble plants, much of Egypt's wisdom might have been lost to time. The boat enters a narrow channel where the water is so still that every papyrus stalk is reflected perfectly upon the surface. Dragonflies hover just above the water, their transparent wings shimmering like tiny pieces of colored glass. Blue, emerald, golden bronze. Each catches the sunlight for only a moment before darting silently away. A sudden movement catches your eye. Not far from the boat, a graceful white egret lifts gently into the air. Its broad wings move slowly, almost lazily, carrying it above the marsh without disturbing the peaceful silence below. Soon another bird appears. Then another. Ibises search carefully among the reeds with their long curved beaks. Kingfishers flash brilliant blue as they dive toward the water. A pair of ducks drift quietly through a patch of floating lotus leaves. Every creature seems perfectly at home. The marsh is alive, yet never noisy. Your boatman pauses. He raises one hand, inviting you to remain perfectly still. Across a quiet stretch of water, a family of hippopotamuses rests almost completely submerged. Only their ears, eyes, and nostrils remain above the surface. In ancient Egypt, hippopotamuses were both admired and respected. They were among the Nile's strongest creatures, and experienced boatmen always gave them plenty of space. Fortunately, this family seems completely relaxed. One young calf yawns lazily before disappearing beneath the water with barely a ripple. The boat quietly changes course. There is no need to disturb them. Respect for nature has always been one of the river's oldest lessons. As you continue through the winding channels, the scent of fresh water and damp earth fills the cool morning air. Nearby, lotus blossoms float peacefully upon broad green leaves. Some flowers are pale white. Others glow with delicate shades of blue. Many are only beginning to open beneath the strengthening sunlight. For the ancient Egyptians, the lotus symbolized renewal. Each morning, its blossoms opened with the sunrise. Each evening, they gently closed once again. It was a quiet reminder that every day brings a new beginning. A fisherman appears around the next bend. His small reed boat seems almost part of the marsh itself. He smiles warmly as he passes. Inside his boat lie only a woven basket, a fishing net, and a clay jar of cool water. Simple possessions, enough for a peaceful day's work. He disappears among the papyrus as silently as he arrived. The marsh swallows every sound. Even the breeze seems to whisper rather than blow. As the sun climbs higher, sunlight filters through the tall reeds in long golden beams. Tiny fish gather in the shadows beneath floating plants. A turtle rests upon a smooth log, warming itself in the gentle light before quietly slipping back into the river. Nothing startles. Nothing rushes. Everything follows the patient rhythm of the Nile. Your boat finally reaches a small open lagoon hidden deep within the marsh. The water here is perfectly calm. The reflections are so clear that the clouds above seem to float both in the sky and beneath the boat at the same time. For several long moments, your boatman does nothing at all. He simply lets the current carry the boat. No oars, no pole, only the slow, steady movement of the river. This, he says softly, is where the Nile teaches its greatest lesson. You wait. After a quiet pause, he smiles. It never hurries, and yet it reaches the sea. His words settle gently into the silence. The boat continues drifting through the peaceful lagoon. Above, birds circle lazily beneath the endless blue sky. Around you, the papyrus sways with the breeze. Below, the timeless waters of the Nile carry you onward, patiently, quietly, just as they have carried travelers, dreamers, and storytellers for thousands of years. Beyond the marshes, another gentle bend in the river awaits, where the fertile delta begins to unfold, and the Nile prepares for the final stage of its long journey toward the Great Sea. Your own peaceful voyage continues with it. Part 15, where the river becomes many. Morning slowly matures into another peaceful day. The hidden lagoon fades behind you as your little wooden boat leaves the quiet embrace of the papyrus marshes. The channels gradually grow wider, and the tall green reeds begin to thin, allowing the open sky to stretch farther across the calm waters. The Nile is changing. For countless miles, it has flowed as a single great river, gathering life along its banks and nourishing every village, field, and temple in its path. But now, as it approaches the northern edge of Egypt, something remarkable begins to happen. The river gently divides. One broad channel becomes two, then three, then many more. Like the branches of a great tree reaching toward the sea, the Nile spreads across the land, creating one of the most fertile regions in the ancient world. Today we call this place the Nile Delta. From above, it resembles a wide green fan opening toward the Mediterranean Sea. To the ancient Egyptians, however, it was simply another gift from the river. Your boat follows one of the larger branches. The current is slower here. Gentle bends carry you past islands covered with reeds, flowering plants, and clusters of graceful willow trees, whose branches dip softly into the water. The air smells different now. There is still the familiar fragrance of wet earth and fresh vegetation, but another scent drifts quietly upon the breeze. Salt, only the faintest hint. The Great Sea is still many miles away, yet its presence can already be felt. The boatman smiles knowingly. "We are getting closer," he says quietly. Along these waterways, life continues with its familiar rhythm. Fishing boats become more common than farming barges. Their sails are bright against the blue sky, catching the steady northern breeze that has helped Egyptian sailors travel these waters for thousands of years. Some fishermen cast woven nets into the shallow channels. Others patiently lower reed traps among the grasses, allowing the river itself to bring the fish. There is no struggle, only patience. The Nile has always rewarded those willing to wait. As the boat rounds another gentle bend, a small island appears ahead. Its shores are shaded by tamarisk and acacia trees. Several families have gathered beneath the branches for the midday meal. Children skip smooth stones across the water. Grandparents sit comfortably upon woven mats, telling quiet stories while baskets of bread, figs, olives, and fresh vegetables are passed from one pair of hands to another. A little farther away, women weave fine fishing nets from strong linen thread. Their fingers move with effortless precision. The pattern has been repeated so many times that it seems almost like music. Every knot is tied with care. Every length of cord is checked before the work continues. A well-made net may serve a family for many seasons. Nothing here is disposable. Everything is valued. Your boat continues onward beneath a sky that seems larger than ever. White clouds drift lazily overhead. Their reflections move across the river beside you, so clearly mirrored that the boat appears to float between two skis. Bird life becomes even richer. Large flocks of pelicans glide low above the channels before settling upon quiet sandbars. Cormorants spread their wings to dry in the warm sunshine. Bright kingfishers flash between the reeds like tiny pieces of living sapphire. High above them all, graceful birds circle upon invisible currents of air, barely moving their wings. The delta is one of nature's great gathering places, not only for people, but also for countless creatures that depend upon the generous waters of the Nile. Your boatman reaches into a small basket and offers you a handful of fresh dates. They are soft, sweet, still warm from the morning sun. He smiles as he watches the river. "My grandfather always said," he begins softly, "that the Nile teaches us the meaning of generosity." He pauses for a moment before continuing. "It gives water to every village, yet it asks for nothing in return." His words linger in the peaceful silence. You look once more across the wide delta. Everywhere you see signs of quiet abundance. Fields of grain, orchards, fishing boats, birds nesting among the reeds, children learning from their parents, neighbors helping one another. It becomes clear that the greatness of ancient Egypt was never built by monuments alone. It grew from thousands upon thousands of ordinary days. Days spent planting seeds, repairing boats, writing scrolls, baking bread, telling stories, watching sunsets, and trusting the river to return each morning. The afternoon breeze freshens slightly. The sail fills once again. Ahead, the water grows broader. The horizon becomes brighter. Somewhere beyond that shimmering line lies the Mediterranean Sea, where the Nile's long journey finally comes to rest after traveling thousands of miles from distant lands to the south. Your own journey is approaching its final chapters. But for now, there is no need to hurry. There is only the steady sound of water against wood, the quiet whisper of the wind in the sail, and the timeless river, carrying you gently toward the place where fresh water and the sea will soon meet beneath the endless Egyptian sky. Part 16, where the river meets the sea. The morning breeze grows a little cooler. Your small wooden boat continues its gentle journey through the wide channels of the Nile Delta, where the river has spread itself across the land like the open fingers of a welcoming hand. The water feels different now. Not rough, not restless, simply broader, more open. The familiar banks, once lined closely with palms and villages, now lie farther apart. Reeds sway quietly along the edges of the channels, while wide stretches of open water reflect the brilliant blue sky. Somewhere ahead lies the end of the Nile's remarkable journey. For thousands of miles, it has flowed patiently from distant highlands, through deserts, valleys, villages, temples, and cities, giving life wherever it traveled. Soon, its fresh waters will meet the vast Mediterranean Sea. Your boatman stands quietly at the stern. He has made this journey many times throughout his life. Even so, he watches the horizon with the same peaceful expression, as though greeting an old friend. There is no excitement in his face, only quiet appreciation. As the morning light brightens, the smell of salt becomes more noticeable. It mixes gently with the familiar scent of wet earth and river reeds. A flock of gulls circles overhead. Unlike the birds you met farther south, these travelers belong to the coast. Their graceful cries drift across the open water before fading into the breeze. They remind you that the sea is close. Very close now. The current grows slower, almost hesitant. It is as though the Nile itself is taking its final peaceful breaths before becoming one with the greater waters beyond. The boat passes several fishing villages built upon low stretches of land. The homes are simple, walls of mud brick, roofs woven from reeds and palm leaves. Fishing nets hang outside to dry beneath the warm sun. Children help their parents repair small boats, learning the same careful skills that their grandparents once taught. Nothing feels hurried. The rhythm of life here is still guided by water. Only now, the people understand both the river and the sea. Some fish in the calm channels. Others venture onto the open Mediterranean when the weather is gentle. Their knowledge has been shaped by generations of observation. They know the winds, the tides, the seasons, not through books alone, but through patient experience. Your little boat continues onward. Ahead, the horizon begins to widen until there is almost no difference between the color of the sea and the sky. Blue above, blue below, separated only by a distant line so soft that it almost disappears. The breeze strengthens slightly. Tiny waves begin to ripple across the water, though they remain gentle enough to rock the boat only a little. Your boatman smiles. "We have arrived," he says quietly. There is no grand announcement, no great celebration, only those simple words. The Nile has reached the sea. For a few moments, he allows the boat to drift without touching either the sail or the oar. The fresh river water continues its endless journey into the Mediterranean, carrying with it tiny grains of fertile soil that have traveled hundreds, sometimes thousands of miles. Year after year, century after century, the river gives itself completely to the sea, never asking for recognition, never seeking praise, simply continuing the work it has always done. You look back toward the south. The Nile itself can no longer be seen. Its winding course disappears beyond the green fields of the delta. Yet you know it is still there, flowing patiently as it has for thousands of years. Somewhere far away, farmers are harvesting wheat. Children are filling clay jars. Scribes are carefully copying words onto papyrus. Gardeners are watering lotus ponds. Craftsmen are shaping wood and clay with patient hands. Life continues all along the river, exactly as it should. The sun climbs higher. Its light sparkles across the meeting place of river and sea, creating thousands of tiny flashes that dance upon the surface like scattered diamonds. The boatman opens the small basket one final time. Inside remain only a few dates and a round loaf of bread. He shares them with you without a word. The meal is simple, yet somehow it feels like a quiet celebration, not of reaching the destination, but of making the journey. After all, the Nile has taught the same lesson every day. Life is not measured only by where we arrive. It is measured by how gently we travel, by the kindness we offer, by the patience we practice, by the quiet beauty we notice along the way. A soft wind fills the sail once more. The boat turns slowly toward the shoreline, beginning its peaceful return. For rivers never truly end. Rain will fall again in distant lands. Streams will gather. Waters will flow northward. And the Nile will begin the same timeless journey once more, just as it always has, and in many ways still does today. As you sit quietly aboard the little wooden boat, watching the endless blue of the Mediterranean stretching before you, you realize that this voyage has never been only about ancient Egypt. It has been about slowing down, about listening, about finding comfort in simple moments, in the steady rhythm of flowing water, in the warmth of the morning sun, in the quiet work of ordinary people whose lives shaped one of history's greatest civilizations. The river continues. The wind continues. The sky continues. And somewhere, far upstream, another traveler is beginning the same peaceful journey along the Nile. Part 17, The River of Memory. The sea lies quietly behind you. Its endless blue slowly fades into the morning haze as your little wooden boat turns south once more. The sail catches a gentle breeze, and almost without effort, the boat begins its peaceful return toward the familiar waters of the Nile. The journey feels different now, not because the river has changed, but because you have. When you first stepped aboard this small boat, every bend in the Nile was a mystery. Each village, each temple, each garden, each quiet face along the shore belonged to an unknown world. Now they feel familiar, like places you have visited many times before. The boatman notices your thoughtful expression. He smiles but says nothing. Some lessons are best left to silence. The morning sun climbs slowly into the sky. Its light falls across the river, just as it has every day for thousands of years. Somewhere in the distance, a fisherman casts his net. Elsewhere, children are carrying fresh water from the river in smooth clay jars. A baker is placing another round loaf into a warm oven. A potter is shaping damp clay with steady hands. Life begins again, exactly as it did yesterday, exactly as it will tomorrow. The Nile has always taught the beauty of repetition. In many places, people seek constant change. The ancient Egyptians also welcomed change, but they found comfort in familiar rhythms. The sunrise returned. The river flowed. The flood arrived. The fields became green. The harvest followed. Then came rest. Their calendar itself was shaped by these dependable cycles. The river was not merely part of life. It was the heartbeat of life. Your boat glides past a group of women washing linen beside the riverbank. They laugh softly together while spreading the clean cloth upon smooth stones to dry in the sunlight. Nearby, an elderly man patiently repairs a fishing basket. His fingers move carefully, weaving each strand into place. He is in no hurry. A well-made basket deserves careful attention. A young child watches him with quiet curiosity. Perhaps one day, those same hands will learn the same skill. Knowledge passes gently from one generation to the next. not only through books, but through observation, through patience, through everyday life. The river itself is a great teacher. It never speaks, yet everyone who lives beside it learns something. A flock of ibises rises gracefully into the clear blue sky. Their white feathers catch the morning light, making them appear almost luminous against the deep azure above. For a few moments, they fly alongside your boat before turning toward distant marshes. The breeze carries the scent of flowering lotus once again. You recognize it immediately. Earlier in your journey, that fragrance was simply pleasant. Now it carries memories of peaceful gardens, still ponds, quiet temples, gentle afternoons beneath palm trees. Places become part of us when we move through them slowly. Your boatman finally breaks the silence. "My father once told me," he says quietly, "that every traveler leaves something behind." He dips the oar gently into the water. "And every traveler carries something away." His words seem perfectly suited to this river. Perhaps you have left behind nothing more than a few footprints in the sand. Or perhaps you have left behind your hurried thoughts. In return, the Nile has offered something difficult to measure. A slower rhythm, a quieter mind, a deeper appreciation for ordinary moments. The boat drifts past another village. Smoke rises gently from cooking fires. Children chase one another beneath date palms. An old woman waters herbs growing beside her doorway. Two neighbors stop to exchange friendly greetings before continuing their morning work. Nothing extraordinary happens, yet everything feels meaningful. History is often told through great victories and famous rulers. But most of life has always been lived in moments exactly like these. A shared meal, a kind conversation, fresh bread cooling in the morning air, birdsong echoing across calm water. These are the quiet threads that truly hold civilizations together. The sun rises higher. Its warmth spreads across the valley. Dragonflies dance above the reeds. A turtle slips silently into the river. The current continues its patient journey toward the sea, just as it always has. You realize that the Nile never keeps anything for itself. It gives water, food, life, and then it keeps flowing. Perhaps that is why it has inspired people for thousands of years. Not because it demands attention, but because it offers generosity without asking for recognition. The boat moves onward, steadily, peacefully. Ahead, the familiar outline of distant palm groves begins to appear once again. The river is gently carrying you back through the places you now know, not as a stranger, but as a quiet traveler who has learned to see beauty in simple things. And the Nile, as always, continues to whisper its timeless story to anyone willing to slow down and listen. Part 18. The quiet wisdom of the river. The river is calm once more. The morning has settled into a gentle, golden day, and your little boat drifts as though it has all the time in the world. The sail hangs softly in the breeze, occasionally filling with wind before relaxing again. The Nile asks for nothing. It simply flows. As you continue your peaceful return southward, the familiar landscape welcomes you like an old friend. Palm trees lean over the river, their reflections stretching across the still water. Reeds sway gently with every passing breeze, while white lotus flowers float quietly between patches of emerald green leaves. Everything seems exactly where it belongs. The boatman sits near the stern, his hands resting lightly upon the wooden tiller. He has spoken very little throughout the journey, not because he is unfriendly, but because he understands that silence can be its own kind of conversation. For many travelers, quiet moments become the ones they remember most. A kingfisher suddenly appears, flashing brilliant blue across the water before settling upon a low branch. It remains perfectly still. Its sharp eyes watch the river with remarkable patience. Minutes pass. The bird does not move. Then, with effortless precision, it dives. A tiny splash. A silver fish. Within seconds, it returns to the branch. The water becomes smooth once again, as though nothing had happened. Nature never wastes energy. Every movement has purpose. Your boat glides beneath a stand of ancient sycamore fig trees. Their broad branches create patches of cool shade upon the river. Several travelers have stopped here to rest. One family shares fresh bread beneath the trees. An elderly couple sits quietly, watching the water without speaking. A young father carefully shows his daughter how to fold papyrus into a simple toy boat. She places it gently upon the river. Together, they watch it float away. The little boat spins slowly in the current before disappearing around a gentle bend. The child laughs. Her father smiles. Perhaps thousands of years from now, no record will remain of this quiet afternoon. No inscription will mention it. No monument will celebrate it. Yet moments like these were the true heartbeat of ancient Egypt. History often remembers the extraordinary. Life is mostly made of the ordinary. The boatman unties a small leather pouch hanging beside his seat. Inside are several polished stones collected over many years. None are made of gold. None are precious jewels. One is smooth black basalt. Another is pale limestone. A third sparkles faintly with tiny crystals. He picks up the smallest one. "I found this when I was younger than my grandson is today," he says with a gentle smile. "It reminds me that even a small stone can travel a very long way if it is carried by the river." He places it back into the pouch. No further explanation is needed. The Nile has carried not only stones, but people, ideas, languages, songs, traditions, and dreams. It has connected villages that would otherwise have remained strangers. It has allowed knowledge to travel from teacher to student, from parent to child, from one generation to the next. As the day grows warmer, the boat passes a shaded riverside orchard. Workers harvest ripe pomegranates with careful hands, placing each fruit gently into woven baskets lined with soft reeds. Nearby, bees move lazily among flowering herbs. Their quiet work fills the air with a gentle hum that blends perfectly with the sound of flowing water. Everything here seems to understand balance. Nothing takes more than it needs. Nothing rushes ahead of the seasons. Even the trees appear patient. Some have stood beside the Nile for longer than any living person can remember. They have watched children grow into grandparents. They have witnessed years of abundant harvests and years when the flood arrived a little later than expected. Still, they continue reaching toward the sky each spring. Your boat enters another peaceful stretch of open water. The current becomes almost effortless. Clouds drift slowly overhead. Their reflections move beneath the boat like soft white islands. The world feels suspended between sky and river. The boatman looks toward the horizon. "My grandmother believed," he says quietly, "that every river remembers." You ask what she meant. He smiles. "She said the water never truly forgets the hands that touched it." He dips his fingers into the Nile. Perhaps she was speaking of memory. Perhaps she was speaking of kindness. Perhaps she simply loved stories. Either way, the thought lingers pleasantly in your mind. How many millions of hands have reached into these waters? Farmers gathering water for their crops. Children learning to swim. Fishermen pulling in their nets. Scribes washing ink from their brushes. Travelers cooling their faces after long journeys. The same river welcomed them all. It welcomes you too. The afternoon light grows softer. Birds begin returning toward their nests. The breeze carries the distant scent of fresh bread from another riverside village hidden among the palms. The familiar fragrance feels comforting now. It reminds you that home is often found in simple things. A warm meal, a friendly smile, the sound of water nearby. The boat continues onward without haste. There is still much of the river left to explore. For the Nile is not merely a place upon a map. It is a living thread woven through thousands of years of human history, quietly carrying each generation forward while gently reminding them to slow down, to notice, and to be grateful for another peaceful day beneath the endless Egyptian sky.